Buckle up for a night of raw, unfiltered drama, where Brad Pitt, Hollywood's golden icon, crashes into Jimmy Kimmel in a clash so intense it ends with security dragging him off the stage. This isn't about a new movie or a charm offensive, it's about a vicious trap, a personal wound twisted for laughs, and a clash that leaves Kimmel scrambling. What pushed Brad to the edge? Stay with us to find out. But first, smash that subscribe button and comment below. What's the wildest talk show blow-up you've ever seen? Let's get into it. The fuse is lit weeks before the taping when a tabloid rumor surfaces claiming Brad Pitt's relationship with his children is broken, painting him as a distant, neglectful dad. It's a lie, vicious and unfounded, but it spreads like wildfire online. Brad, fiercely private about his family, ignores it, concentrating on his work with a disaster relief charity he's been quietly funding. When Kimmel's team invites him on the show, they pitch it as a chance to talk about this charity, a cause close to his heart. Brad, cautious but optimistic, agrees, hoping to shift the narrative. His manager warns him. Kimmel thrives on chaos, but Brad shrugs it off. "I can handle him," he says, his voice calm, resolute. The night of the taping, Brad strides onto the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live, his presence effortless, a tailored jacket hugging his frame, his smile warm but guarded. Kimmel greets him with a grin that's too slick, his eyes gleaming with something predatory. Brad Pitt, everybody. The man who needs no introduction. Kimmel says, his tone friendly but edged with mockery. Brad nods, settles into the guest chair, his posture relaxed but alert, ready to steer the conversation to his charity. The interview starts smoothly. Kimmel asking about Brad's relief work, the communities he's helped rebuild. Brad leans in his voice, steady, passionate, detailing the lives changed by clean water and safe homes. But Kimmel's not here for goodwill. He turns on him, his grin sharpening. "Brad, you're out there saving the world, but things at home, they're not so rosy, are they?" he says, his voice dripping with false concern. Brad's smile tightens his eyes, narrowing. Sensing the ambush, Kimmel presses on, undeterred. "I mean, we've all seen the stories, you and your kids. Not exactly the Brady Bunch right now," he says, his tone light but cruel, the words cutting deep. Brad's hands clench, his voice low, firm. "We're not discussing my family. Jimmy, let's focus on the work," he says, trying to shut it down. But Kimmel's got his bait. He brings up a screen behind them, flashing a tabloid headline, "Pitt's Family Feud Kids Cut." Back for the live segment. Kimmel's grin, a grimace, his hands unsteady. "All right, Brad, let's cool it down. Tell us about your charity," he says, his tone forced a weak attempt to pivot. Brad cuts him off, his voice unrelenting. "Cool it down. You dragged my family through your mud." "Jimmy, there's no cooling that," he says, his eyes burning, his body coiled but controlled. "You wanted a reaction. You got one now, own it." Kimmel's eyes flash, his voice rising, frantic. "Own it, you're the one losing it, Brad. Throwing a fit on my stage," he says, pointing at Brad, his fingers shaking. "You think you're above this? You're just a pretty face with a messy life." Brad's response is instant, his voice a quiet thunder. "Messy. I've owned every mistake, Jimmy, but you hide behind your desk, slinging lies to feel powerful," he says, each word a hammer striking Kimmel's ego. Kimmel grabs a new prop, a stack of fake text messages, waving them like evidence. "You want to keep going, Brad? I've got more texts from your kids, or so they say," he says, his voice a desperate hiss, a reckless bluff. Brad's eyes narrow, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "You're bluffing, Jimmy. And even if you're not, you're too weak to handle what comes next," he says, his calm more menacing than any outburst. Kimmel's hand freezes the papers, slipping his eyes wide with a flicker of fear. Brad presses forward, his voice steady. "Lethal. You thought you could break me, make me a punchline, but you misjudged," he says, each word measured, unyielding. "I faced worse than you, and I'm still here standing." Kimmel's jaw tightens, his voice shrill, unraveling. "Standing, you're about to crash." "Brad, this is my show, and I say when it's over," he says, but his words falter, his confidence shattered. He reaches for another note card, hinting at another dig, but Brad's stare stops him, a wall of fire. Brad leans back, his eyes never leaving Kimmel, his silence a blade. Your show's on borrowed time, Jimmy. You crossed a line and I'm not letting it slide, he says, his voice calm but final. Kimmel's fingers tremble, his eyes wild. His voice a weak retort. Slide, you're the one sliding Brad right out the door, he says, but his bravado is gone, his face pale. The director signals another break, the tension suffocating Kimmel's hand, clutching the fake texts. Brad's gaze unyielding, the clash poised to erupt. Brad Pitt's gaze pierces Jimmy Kimmel. A silent vow of reckoning as the commercial break fails to douse the tension. Kimmel's hand trembling on the stack of fake text messages. You're done, Jimmy? Brad says, his voice low, steady. Each word, a stone sinking Kimmel's facade. Kimmel drops the papers, his eyes wild, his voice a strained hiss. Done, you're the one who's done, Brad. You don't get to call the shots here, he says, but his shaking hands betray him, his bravado crumbling. Kimmel scrambles to recover, leaning forward, his fingers gripping the desk. You think you can intimidate me, Brad? I've got more dirt. Stories that'll make this look tame. He says, his tone desperate, a reckless bluff. Brad's eyes narrow, his voice a controlled blaze. Dirt, you're scraping the bottom, Jimmy. Making up lies about my kids because you've got nothing real, he says, each word deliberate, cutting deep. You're not a journalist, you're a parasite. Kimmel's face flushes, his voice rising unhinged. Parasite. I'm the one with the stage. Brad, I make the rules and you're breaking them, he snaps, grabbing the cracked worst dad trophy, waving it like a weapon. This is what people see. Brad a failure, not a hero. He says, his smirk returning cruel but shaky. Brad doesn't flinch, his voice, steady, searing. People see what you feed them, Jimmy. Lies, garbage, anything to hide how small you are. The cameras roll back for the live segment. Kimmel's grin a grimace, his hands unsteady. All right, Brad, let's move on. No need to drag this out, he says, his tone forced a weak attempt to pivot. Brad cuts him off, his voice unrelenting. Drag it out. You started this. Jimmy smearing my family for your ego, he says. Leaning closer, his presence a quiet storm. You wanted a fight. You got one. Now deal with it. Kimmel's eyes flash, his voice a snarl. Fight, you're just a washed-up star throwing a tantrum, he says, slamming the trophy on the desk, the crack widening. I can bury you, Brad, with one more story. Brad's response is immediate. His voice, a quiet thunder. Bury me, you're the one sinking. Jimmy, look at you. Shaking, scared. Because you know you went too far, he says. Each word a nail in Kimmel's crumbling armor. Kimmel grabs another prop. A mock diary labeled Brad's Secrets, waving it frantically. You want to keep going, Brad? I've got pages of this stuff your fans would eat up, he says, his voice a desperate growl, his bluff growing wilder. Brad's eyes darken, his voice, dropping to a chilling whisper. You're empty, Jimmy. No diary, no text, just you flailing. Because you can't stand me standing up to you, he says. His calm a blade slicing through Kimmel's defenses. Brad presses forward, his voice, steady, lethal. You thought you could humiliate me, make my kids a punchline, but you forgot who I am, he says, each word measured, unyielding. I fought harder battles than this, and I'm still here unbroken. Kimmel's jaw clenches, his voice shrill, unraveling. Unbroken. You're about to break Brad right here on my show, he says. But his words falter, his eyes glistening with panic, not power. Brad stands slowly, his presence towering, his voice a quiet inferno. Your show's a circus, Jimmy, and you're the clown, not me, he says, stepping toward the desk. His eyes locked on Kimmel. Kimmel lurches to his feet, his chair scraping, his voice frantic. Get out, Brad, you're finished, he shouts, pointing to the exit. But his hand shakes, his authority gone. Brad doesn't move, his voice low. Final, I'm not finished, Jimmy. But you are. You crossed a line. And I'm calling it. The director signals another break, but the cameras keep rolling, capturing the chaos. Kimmel's face, pale, his eyes wild, clutching the mock diary like a lifeline. Brad stands unmovable, his gaze a promise of consequences. The studio silent except for the hum of the lights. The confrontation teetering on the edge of something explosive, unstoppable. Brad Pitt stands like a pillar of fire. His eyes locked on Jimmy Kimmel, who clutches the mock diary. His face drained, his earlier swagger reduced to a trembling shadow. "You've got nothing left, Jimmy," Brad says, his voice low, steady. Each word, a final verdict. Kimmel's hand shakes the diary, slipping his voice a ragged hiss. "Nothing, I'm still here, Brad. This is my show. You're the one leaving," he says. But his words crumble, his eyes betraying a man cornered, exposed. Brad steps closer, his presence, a quiet storm, his voice cutting through the studio's silence. "Your show, it's a house of cards. Jimmy built on lies like the ones you told about my kids," he says. Each word, deliberate, heavy. Kimmel's jaw clenches, his voice rising frantic. "Lies? The world is talking about your family. Brad, I just gave them a stage." He snaps, waving the diary, but his hand stutters. The prop useless. His bluff called, Brad's eyes cloud, his voice a cold whisper. "You didn't give them a platform, Jimmy. You sold them a lie, and now you're paying the price." Kimmel slams the diary on the desk, the thud hard, desperate. "Paying, you're the one who's done, Brad." Throwing a tantrum like a has-been, he bellows, his voice cracking, unhinged. He seizes the cracked worst dad trophy, clutching it like a shield. "This is what you are, Brad. A failure, and everyone knows it," he says. His eyes crazed, his last gasp of defiance. Brad's reaction instant, his voice a quiet rumble. "A failure, I've owned my errors, Jimmy." "But you're too cowardly to own yours," he says. Each word a knife slashing Kimmel's ego. Kimmel's face contorts, his voice, a snarl, but it's broken hollow. "Weak, I'm the one standing, Brad. You're just a shadow of your old self," he says, his hands trembling, the trophy slipping. Brad leans forward, his voice steady, deadly. "A shadow, I'm more real than you'll ever be. Jimmy, my family's my strength, and you don't get to touch that," he says, his calm more menacing than any tantrum. Kimmel's eyes shine not with tears, but with anger. Defeat, his breath halting, his control lost. Brad stands, his presence looming, his voice final. "You wanted to break me, Jimmy, but you broke yourself," he says, stepping back, his eyes never leaving Kimmel. "You crossed a line, and now the world sees you." Small, scared, finished. Kimmel opens his mouth, but no words emerge, his hands dropping, the trophy rolling off the desk, shattering on the floor. Brad turns his stride, purposeful, heading for the exit, but pauses, looking back. "You got your show, Jimmy, but I got my truth," he says, his voice a parting shot, leaving Kimmel slumped silent. A man dismantled security intervenes. Their approach firm but respectful, guiding Brad off the stage. But he walks with purpose, his head held high, unbroken. Kimmel sits, staring at the destruction, the fake diary, the shattered trophy. His own cruelty reflected back. The cameras capture every moment, the feed cutting instantly, leaving the world to work out the aftermath. And there you have it, folks. The night Brad Pitt turned Jimmy Kimmel's ambush into a masterclass in standing tall, revealing a host's vicious streak and walking away unbroken. What did you make of this showdown? Was Kimmel's smear campaign a new low, or did Brad's defiance steal the stage? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get this debate fired up. And if you're not subscribed,